Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, dear Mr. Domfrid, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here today in Berlin with you, with friends. And since the 1st of July this year, you know, Republic of Croatia is the 28th member of the European Union. For Croatia, the entry into the European Union was the last great strategic goal. Croatian people have strived to attain this goal since the 1990s. In a historical short time, the Republic of Croatia has become a member of United Nations, Council of Europe, NATO, and the European Union. Many things made the Croatian accession negotiations unique, the most difficult, the most demanding, complicated, unlikely. The negotiations had many ups and downs. During that time, Croatia had invested a lot of effort and energy into proving that it is a member of the European family. Many segments of the society have been changed irrevocably. Back in 2004, Croatia attained candidate status. From then to 2008, we had negotiated slowly and sluggishly. Then the negotiations stopped. They were blocked because of an unsolved bilateral issue with our neighboring state, Slovenia. The problem formed around a border dispute, because of which Slovenia blocked 14 of 35 chapters in the negotiation treaty. At that time, some other countries as well had their reserves toward our negotiations process because of our cooperation with the Hague Tribunal. When I came to the head of the government in July 2009, Croatian negotiations had, it seemed, at the time, hopelessly stalled. The economic situation was also extremely harsh. GDP had fallen by almost 7%. My task as Prime Minister then was to juggle two balls. On the one hand, something needed to be done for the economy, and the other hand, we had to unblock the negotiations. The condition for unblocking the negotiations was to solve the border dispute with Slovenia. For more than 18 years, that dispute had not been resolved, and it seemed that no one had the strength to push it towards resolution. In summer 2009, the relation between our two countries reached its lowest point since both countries gained independence. Growing tensions had been a burden on everyday contacts. On both sides of the borders, tensions were also brewing between the citizens and the two states. We were all frustrated and burdened by this. Then Prime Minister and now President of Slovenia, Mr. Borut Pahor, and I agreed that the border dispute between our two countries will be solved by a court of arbitration. We signed an arbitration agreement which spelled out that the court of the arbitration will decide according to the international law. The negotiations which had led to this agreement were difficult and complicated. The arbitration agreement was signed by the end of 2009, and so the Croatian EU negotiations were unblocked. we could thus continue with our difficult task. By the end of the negotiations, we still had to open and close the remaining 30 chapters. Croatia is the first country which had benchmarks for opening and closing its EU accession chapters. Each benchmark was a reform which demanded changes. Croatia had also received special homework in Chapter 23, Judiciary and Fundamental Rights. That was the mother of all chapters, and within its framework we also had to deal with the difficult legacy of the war from the 1990s. The pillars of the Chapter 23 were the fight against corruption, reform of the judiciary, return of refugees, and cooperation with the Hague Tribunal. During its negotiations, Croatia kept extending a helping hand to all its neighbors which are not members of the European Union. My government gave the translation of the EU acquis communautaire as a gift to the neighboring states. The Croatian parliament made the decision that Croatia would not pose any bilateral issue as an obstacle to the European path of our neighbors. All the relevant political options in Croatia support the European path of the neighboring states. It is this gathering in a European family that ensures lasting peace and prosperity in the Southeast Europe. I will be happy if the Croatian path to acceding to the European Union becomes a role model for how to successfully complete this difficult task. Croatia is proof that the reforms pay off. Croatia is an example that a country can change in the interest of its citizens, because during our negotiations we strengthened the independence of the judiciary and we have straight a strong political framework to fight corruption and crime. This work was not always met with applause and cheers. This work came under criticism and met with strong resistance by those who had to change. However, more courage is always needed from politicians who lead a country. More interest, the interests of the state always need to be above the interest of any political party or any individual. I tried hard to lead my government in such a manner. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.